Hey guys, it's Jelly. Thank you for tuning into this video. I really do appreciate it. Anybody who can come and listen to me talk for God knows how long, you're the real MVP, okay? I'm gonna try to be super articulate in this video, which is not something that I usually am, and just also try to be pretty brief with the information that I give out. Anyway, to the content of this video, I wanted to talk about my experience in the military. In the Air Force in particular, because I am in the Air Force. A lot of the things that I probably will mention or talk about, although I'm in the Air Force, I think they are applicable throughout the other branches. So we have our rivals amongst the branches and the way we feel about the Army is this, the Air Force is that, the Marine Corps is that. But I think if we're all honest with ourselves, a little bit in the inside, there are some stuff that we can agree on, some experiences we can agree on. And I think most people will have a lot of love across all the branches. So if you're thinking about joining the Navy, if you're thinking about joining the Army, if you're in the Navy, if you're in the Army, don't think that this video won't be applicable to you, because I think it will. I know a lot of people in the Army. My dad served in the Marine Corps. I know plenty of people in the Navy, and we can relate in a lot of ways. So with that being said, I wrote down a few questions to keep me on track, because if you watched any of my videos, you know how I can get. So yeah, I'll start with the first question that I wrote down, which is, when did I join the Air Force? I joined the Air Force so I enlisted into the Air Force, I guess when I was 17 and a half, but I didn't actually ship off to boot camp until I was 18. That was December 2013. So if you can do the math, I've been in the Air Force a little over 5 years. I enlisted for 6 years, so this will be my last year for this enlistment. What is my rank? I am a E5 staff sergeant in the Air Force. I actually have not been an E5 for super long. I tested twice, made it on my second time, obviously. Yeah, it's only been a few months. I have a few troops of my own. I really enjoy that. Yeah, still considered like a young airman, I would say, because people can be E5 at like 4 years or 3.5, depending on how high of a flyer you are. So yeah, there's that. Why did I join the Air Force? Okay, this is the stuff that I like to talk about. Or why did the Air Force in particular? No, let me start back. Why did I join the military? So I joined the military. I started considering joining the military in my senior year. I had thought about it my junior year a little bit, but I wasn't really sold on whether or not I wanted to go straight to school or what I wanted to do in my life. But once I got to my senior year and I started really considering all the different colleges and different degree plans and all that stuff, I was not sold on going straight to college. I possibly could have gotten some scholarships, definitely would have been able to get a Pell Grant or two, but the idea of going to school and more than likely accumulating some student loan debt and not exactly knowing what I wanted to do, so probably having some indecision in there and going back and forth, like just the thought of all that did not seem appealing to me. And I've always been the kind of person where I'm super goal driven and I like to get things done for the most part. So the idea of like going through the motions with that and not really having a vision for that, yeah, it wasn't appealing to me at all. So I'm not sure if it was, I think it was, yeah, early my senior year, one of my favorite teachers, a great mentor, a wonderful lady, had scheduled me to take the ASVAB. And so previously to being scheduled, I didn't study. I didn't really care about what the outcome was for that. So I kind of just went into the test with the knowledge that I have accumulated through school and just was like, let's see how I do. So in school, I was a pretty good student. Like I didn't do my homework and I wasn't like a super overachiever, but I could learn pretty easily. I was self-motivated. I was usually when it comes to testing and just learning stuff at the top of the pool when it comes to my classmates or whatever. So I would say I was a pretty smart kid and I didn't really try hard. Went into the ASVAB and also had the same experience where I scored pretty well. There were people who scored super high, like 90s and stuff like that. I think my overall score or general score was like an 81, but most of the scores were around that range. So took the ASVAB, did really good, and that kind of put the seed in my brain that was like, okay, the military is an option once my counselor had sat down with me and explained what that was. So about halfway through my senior year, it's crunch time, trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. I decided, like, yeah, I'm gonna join the military. I'd already knew about the GI Bill. I was familiar with VA home loans and healthcare and some of those other benefits because my dad did serve in the Marine Corps. So I knew, I was like, okay, I'm going to join the military, committed to that. Then it was the idea of what branch, So yeah, the Army, Coast Guard, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, and then you have the Guard and Reserve components. My first choice, if I'm being completely honest, and if you're in this branch, just know that I do not feel this way anymore, so haha. But my first choice was going to be the Marine Corps. Now, if you know me and you know some of my struggles that I'm doing, or some of my goals and struggles that I have going on right now as far as fitness and weight and all that good jazz, then you would probably be surprised when I say that I wanted to join the Marine Corps. But knowing that my dad was in the Marine Corps and I grew up a daddy's girl, and I would consider myself a tomboy in the fact that I liked sports and I like working out. That was why I considered the Marine Corps. That was a weird way to put it, but yeah, I just like the idea of following after my dad's footsteps. I like the idea of being the super fit, hardcore Marine. I grew up in a military town, a Marine Corps town, so that was the background that I had. However, after doing some research and especially talking to my dad, and although he is very proud of his military service, very proud of being a Marine, he did not want his little girl to be a Marine. He had a rough time. He served in a war, so he had that experience to pull from, and he wasn't a fan. And hearing from his experience and knowing that there were other options, I also decided that that wasn't where I wanted to see myself going. I didn't want to, although I thought it was super cool, I didn't want to be a grunt, and I also didn't want the intensity of the lifestyle that most Marines I know have. So I started considering the other branches. I considered the Army, didn't consider the Coast Guard, Navy at all. And don't laugh at me, but it's because I do not know how to swim. And I've had some training throughout my Air Force career that revolved around swimming, or that involved swimming or being in the water or being in the pool. And I'm not a fan. So I kind of ruled, sorry to anybody in the Coast Guard and Navy, but I kind of ruled that out pretty fast. And then it was between the Army and the Air Force, and I'm not sure exactly what made me choose the Air Force initially. But after I started pursuing the Air Force and I realized the kind of corporate environment that it is, and that it's kind of known for being more of like the nerdy or the brainiac type setting and environment, I was sold. Because although I'm not the biggest fan of school and learning, well, I'm a big fan of learning, but I'm not the biggest fan of school and being around people who are super matter of the fact. I don't know what I'm saying, but yeah, although that was going to be a hard pill to swallow, I was kind of excited about it too, because I would say people would know me from being smart or being into books and stuff like that. So I thought it would be right up my alley, and I scored well enough to join the Air Force. And I heard that the environment was a little bit, like I said, corporate or less gruntish. So that was my choice, and I got in contact with the Air Force recruiter and went from there. My fourth question was my parent/family reaction. I already told you how my dad felt. He didn't feel any type of way about me joining the military, but he wanted to make sure that his little girl was safe. So that was his kind of take on it, and he thought the Air Force was cool. So he was pretty excited about that and being able to brag like, oh, my little girl's in the Air Force, this, that, and the third. So that was cool. And I'm just gonna keep throwing that pencil. But yeah, my mom's reaction. I would say my mom is a very supportive person when it comes to any of her kids want to do new things or be just better ourselves. She always wanted the best for us and better than she had. So when I told her I was going to join the military, like a mother would be, she was scared or nervous, you know, especially her baby girl, her youngest daughter, scared probably for my safety. Am I going to be all right? But outside of that, my mom has always been supportive, always been encouraging, always been super proud and telling her friends and all that and telling people at her job and stuff. So I had two very supportive parents. I think they knew that I had a good head on my shoulders and I would make the best decisions that I could at the time. And so I think they both they both trusted me in that effect. So they believed that I would turn out fine, and you know, so far so good, right? So yeah. What was my recruitment experience? So I told you when I decided on the Air Force, I contacted a recruiter. I think I made a phone call to like the regular Air Force recruiting number, and they put me in contact with my recruiter at the time. And it was a super smooth process. My recruiter was dope. He was super encouraging. The only thing that kind of got in the way of my recruiting experience was my weight at the time. So for my height, 5'11", you could Google what weight I was supposed to be at, and I was not that weight. I was very heavy. I've always, since middle school, been in sports, but my lifestyle and my eating habits were not great. And I think at the end of my junior year, I stopped playing sports so that I could work full time. And you can only guess where a 17-year-old girl from a small town would work. Fast food. Yes, I worked in fast food. I worked at McDonald's. I loved it. I could talk about that experience later. But yeah, I worked at McDonald's, worked a whole lot, ate mostly at McDonald's when I wasn't eating at school. And as you can probably imagine, the weight piled on. So I had to lose weight to join the Air Force. If you're interested in that, comment a muscle emoji, and I can tell you the kind of things that I did to lose weight for that. But some people complain and feel that they were lied to during their recruitment experience, which I do believe happens. Some people will probably feel like they're just a number. Some people will feel you'll have a range of experiences from people getting recruited into the military. But I could honestly say that my recruitment experience was super positive. I had a great circle of people around me. There were people who were joining and were in the DEP program when I was, that I met and that I still have contact with today. So yeah, it was a great experience. I am really appreciative of having a great recruiter and not being able to say otherwise. My tech school experience, or my boot camp experience. So boot camp and tech school, everybody might not agree if you're in the service, but I enjoyed it. Now during boot camp, and probably if you go back and look at my post boot camp, post tech school videos, I'm not sure exactly what I said, but maybe I didn't feel this way. But looking back, it was a wonderful experience. Boot camp is kind of crappy, you know. I was not in what they call Disneyland now. It's probably all Disneyland now, I'm not even sure. But being stuck in a big bay full of females, all of our hormones going on, we're all cranky, you know, you're not sleeping the same way, you're not eating the food you want to eat, you're getting yelled at, everything's a little bit higher paced and stressful. That in itself, yes, it's a rough experience to have, but some of the people who I met in boot camp were amazing. I'm still in contact with a few of them to this day. Even if we don't talk every day, those are my sisters. I made sisters in boot camp. Also, I pushed myself in boot camp. I learned so much about how I am as a person socially when put like in a stressful situation. I've always been pretty, what they would say is like nice, and I get along with most people. But when you go into certain settings, any setting that is unfavorable can change how a person reacts. I had a few little rough patches in boot camp because of that, but it all turned out fine. I was the beast monitor, and I think I was a weapons monitor and something else. being a beast monitor was so freaking dope. I freaking loved it. If y'all want any kind of information on my boot camp specific experience and updated feeling on how I felt towards everything, feeling on how I felt, an updated experience video, let me know. You just have to put that straight. I can't think of any cool emojis for that, but yeah, let me know. I love boot camp. If I could go back and not have the knowledge that I have now and just go back and do it again, or if I had the knowledge that I have now and I can go back and do it again, I would. Like, it was a blast, especially the beast portion. Weapons, all that stuff was super fun. Yeah. If you've been through boot camp, let me know. Put a thumbs up or a thumbs down if your experience was overall good, overall bad. Just let me know. Or if you're interested or you're going to join the Air Force and you're more curious about boot camp, like I said, let me know, and then I'll talk more about that. Tech school, I had a very long, how was my tech school experience was a question. I had a very long tech school. I also loved it. I gotta make sure I talk about something else so y'all don't know my whole experience hasn't always been positive, but I enjoyed tech school. It was a very lengthy tech school compared to most. It was very difficult, and even I would say difficult compared to a lot of career fields across the military, but it was some of the best training that I've ever had. I've met the majority of my best friends during that time period. I've learned so much about myself in that time period. I'll talk about that more later, but it was awesome. I like the fact that I moved to a couple of different places while going through tech school. I just loved it. I love boot camp. I love tech school. I'll try to think about more input or experience on that if people are interested in that, but overall it was a great experience. I think tech school is a great time to branch off into different things. They have ropes, so you can do airman leadership ropes. You can do be a rope about sexual assault prevention. You can be a rope about like spiritual resiliency, like work in chapel programs. You can volunteer. You can do so many things, and I think that's the time where you should figure out your niche and just try to meet a bunch of people and stay in contact with those people, because you never know when you're going to go to your first station. And even if they're not in the same tech school as you, if y'all were on the same base or something like that, you never know when you're going to meet people again. So keep in contact with people, and also on that same note, make sure that you don't do anything during that time that you'll regret, whether it be burn bridges, whether it be get in trouble. Like, if you get in small little bits of trouble, like 341 type trouble, level trouble, that'd be fine. Nobody cares about 341s too much after test. No, after test school, nobody cares about that kind of thing. But the rest of your experience can follow you. If you're known to be a troublemaker and you continue that into your duty station, and that's the case. But if you burn bridges and make enemies out of your peers, the people who are also in that career field, or people who are also been in the same tech school settings as you, like I said, the good thing about tech school is that you might meet these other people again, but the bad thing is also that you might meet these other people again. And if you get into my career field, you'll probably be with those same people for the majority of your time in the military. So keep that in mind. Don't burn bridges. Don't get in trouble. This isn't the Air Force of 1990 where you could get a whole bunch of paperwork and get in serious trouble and probably remain in the Air Force. Like, yes, if you have great leadership and you show initiative and you show that you have been reformed in certain situations, the Air Force is not looking to poop on your head and just get you in trouble. But in a lot of situations, this is a one chance or no chance Air Force. So keep that in mind. One of my other questions was deployments. What has my experience been like with deployments? Here I go again with my positivity, but I love deployments. Now, I haven't always had the best experience on deployments. Like, I've had my rough patches. I think it goes back to earlier, when you're stressed, it brings out not the best in people, and it didn't bring out the best in me at certain points, but some of the people who I'm most close to and most fond of were people who I grew a relationship with while I was deployed. I've reunited with people who I haven't seen in years once I went in deployment. I've learned so much about how I operate like when it comes to managing multiple things, or when it comes to relationships, like intimate relationships, how I am, how I keep up with those kind of things when I'm stressed, or if I'm not in the same physical location as people, how I keep contact with people. Like, I've learned so much about myself. And also, I feel the most military when I'm on deployment. When you're back home, if you don't live overseas, when you're back home, sometimes it can feel like, am I in the military? Especially if you're in the Air Force. But once you deploy, you're in that environment pretty much 24/7. It's more high pace. I just feel like G.I. Jane most of the time. So yeah, I've been on 3 deployments, I think. Yeah, 3 deployments so far. And I've met the most wonderful people, and it's been some of the best experience. So yeah, love deployments. If you have questions about those, y'all gonna have to let me know, or I'll be rambling forever again about something. All right, so my favorite parts about being in the Air Force or in the military, I would say, is one, the people I've met, some of my closest friends, pretty much the majority of my closest friends. I've met people not only that have been close to me, but I've met so many different types of people that I think has kind of shaped who I am as a person. I've always been pretty accepting of people and like accepting of diversity and stuff like that, but this was really the chance to really experience that. I've met people from all over the world. I've met people from every single background, and I've made friends with, and really good friends with, that whole range of people. And yeah, I don't think there's anything like it, honestly, outside of, when you go to university, you meet people from a lot of different backgrounds and stuff. But I think to a certain extent, unless you're in the military, you are made, there's no other option but to be around these people, and in a lot of different circumstances, you can't just be around them and tolerate them. You have to, get some unity going. I think there's no experience like it, and it's been one of the most value-adding experiences for me in life so far. Another like is the stability. So there are certain layoffs that have happened over the last couple of decades, or if you get in trouble, or there's different situations where the stability can come into question. But for the most part, as long as you're healthy, as long as you stay out of trouble, as long as you do what you're supposed to do, the stability is there, the paycheck is there, the healthcare is there, the stability of knowing that in the future you can go to school, or you can go to school now, that's there. So I think that's a big thumbs up for most people, and that's probably the biggest reason why, or one of the biggest reasons why, people actually join the military. Now, to add some, balance to this conversation, I wrote down what has been my biggest dislikes. The first one is probably superficial a little bit, but it can be more than superficial, because I think in a lot of sense, being an African American woman, my hair is more than just hair for me, especially when it comes to making sure that I am in regulations. And for a long time, and even some situations still, the regulations are based off of a European standard. So yeah, one of my dislikes would be the struggles I've had with being like a Black woman in the military. One is the same struggles that everyone has, which is like the different stereotypes, and making sure that, one being a female, one being a Black female, that I am treated as I think I should be and as I think I deserve to be, and also that so that I'm treated like I should be and not being discriminated against, which I haven't had any institutional issues with that. Like I said, there are people across all different types of backgrounds, so maybe one-on-one or personally you might encounter someone who you have difficulties in that sense with, but overall I haven't had any particular like racism or institutional discrimination against me. I do struggle with natural hair in the military. I started out relaxed, so I didn't have that trouble until I went natural, and now it's kind of a struggle. Like at one point I had a lot of hair loss around my edges and stuff from constantly trying to manipulate my hair and get it into regs, especially when my hair was a lot shorter. And a lot of times it would be stressful, or like if you would have somebody comment on your hair. Even hairstyles that I still feel to this day were in regs. If you have somebody comment on your hair, or if you have someone critique something about you, especially for me in regards to hair, that added to the stress that was already a stressful situation. So that was rough. But yeah, that would be one dislike. Another dislike is that we are in a day and time, the military culture, where it isn't a two mistake culture. Like if you get in trouble, a lot of times, a lot of people can bounce back, but that isn't always the case. And I think people, if you talk to older people like 20, 30 plus years, people from the military, vets and stuff, like they'll be like, oh yeah, I did all this crazy stuff, got in trouble, and I bounced back. Or even if you talk to your chiefs, your other E9s, or officers who've been in a long time, they can have these same stories where they got into trouble, they weren't that great of a military member, and they made it super far. But in this day and age, if you screw up, you can bounce back. I'm not going to discourage you and say you can't bounce back, but it's going to be very difficult, and it's not the culture that allows that kind of thing. So that's a dislike, just because I've seen some really great people and some people who I think had a lot of potential and who were great airmen otherwise and great military members otherwise make a mistake and lose it all in a sense. So that's unfortunate. And then I'll say my third dislike is just that sometimes I want to be home. I want to be more involved with the people who I grew up with or my family. I want to do certain things and branch off and do certain things, but depending on your job and your mission and stuff like that, sometimes that can be difficult. Just even if people, your leadership and everyone is very supportive of you doing other stuff, sometimes the schedule, the pace, the stress of it all, the instability if you move around of it all can hinder that. So that's one of my dislikes. So when it comes to the schedule and intensity and all that stuff interfering, that's one thing. But sometimes you won't have a great supervisor or a great leadership that will push you and support you and branching off and do other things. Like there are some people who just don't like to see, and this is outside of the military too, like don't think it's a military thing, but there are some certain people who don't like to see others do well or do better. So just keep that in mind, and that kind of leads into what I'll say about some of my advice. But regrets, what are my regrets if I have any? I don't have any regrets about joining the military. Overall, I'm very happy with my decision. I've learned a lot, I've experienced a lot, I've gained a lot. That's been great. One of my regrets would be to ever let myself go. A lot of people think you, like physically, a lot of people think when you join the military, automatically you're going to be freaking G.I. Jane, G.I. Joe, always in super great shape. But once you leave the tech school or boot camp environment and join the operational environment, as far as Air Force is concerned, it's very easy to fall off track when it comes to health and fitness. Like, yes, you will always have to pass a PT test, either every 6 months or for me every year. But it doesn't mean they're going to stop you from gaining weight. It doesn't mean that they're going to care about the food choices you're making. So all those healthy lifestyle choices that you have to make is on you. So that's one of my regrets, is that I had, even now, I wouldn't say I'm super out of shape, but I've gained more weight than I want. And I've had other periods where I was not very healthy. I wasn't making good lifestyle choices. I'm fixing that now, and I plan on keeping this up, for life, like make it a legit lifestyle choice. But yeah, it's always easier to keep going than it is to start. So that's one of my regrets. And then also one of my regrets is that sometimes you can let the environment get to you and maybe act out in ways that's really not true to who you are as a person. And I had a few moments where I've had negative encounters with people, or I didn't have the best attitude in certain situations. And if I can go back, I think I have a positive attitude generally, and I would try to keep that up and not let situations get me so been out of shape, you know? Like there's a saying, it's like, don't let, if it won't matter in 5 years, don't let it like ruin your day type thing. And that's one of my regrets, because I've had moments that wouldn't matter a week later, caused me so much stress and caused me to burn bridges that I regret. So I would say that's all I can think of for now for regrets. Now I will end it on advice. This will be my one and only piece of advice unless people ask for more, and that is to, and you hear this a lot today, but it's to remember your why. And what I mean by that is, when you're joining the Air Force, when you're joining the Navy, when you're joining the Coast Guard, Marine Corps, Army, whatever it is, even reserve components, you have a reason why you're joining. Find that reason and don't forget it. A lot of times people are like, oh, I'm joining for the education or whatever, and then they join the military. We have education programs in the military, and people won't take advantage of that. Or I've known people who separated the military who swore up and down they joined for education, who hasn't taken advantage of the educational benefits that you can receive from the military. So that's just an example, and there are multiple other examples. Like if you joined to be fit and in shape, or if you joined for camaraderie, and then you join the Air Force and you join the military in general, and you don't keep up with your fitness, you don't take advantage of the fitness programs, you don't keep up with camaraderie, you don't take advantage of the fact that you're going to meet people from all over the world, and you don't network. If you join the military with a why, don't forget it. Because if I haven't learned anything else, I've learned that time will fly by, whether you remember and stick to your goals or not. So yeah, don't forget your why. If you join for education, keep that in mind the whole time. If you join for experience, or if you join to make it to 20 years and make it to E9, from day one, and it's okay to, fall off and sometimes make the wrong choices, but from day one, in the back of your head should always be, it's what I'm doing now, it's my experience now, is the opportunities that I'm passing up now going to get me to where I intended my end game to be? Is it going to get me to my goal? Is it going to get me to my why? And if that's not the case, you're wasting time. You're wasting great experience. You don't want to look, if you do 4 or 6 years, you don't want to look 4 or 6, 20 years down the line and be like, dang, there's one reason why I joined, which it could change. If it changes, keep that same, whatever why it is for that day, keep that in mind. But you don't want to look back and have too many regrets. So I would say the best way to do that is to keep your why in mind and don't forget it. And everything that you do, whether it be retraining, whether it be promotion, whether it be networking with people, it should all be going towards your end game. And now that I'm getting hoarse and this video is getting long as heck, I would just like to say thank you for making it this far. If you have, I've tried to mention a few of the questions that you guys might have, but if you have any other questions, if it's personal and you don't want to share it in the comments, my email will be in the description box, and you email me, and I check my email every day, so I will get back to you as soon as possible. So if you have any questions, comments, advice, anything, do reach out to me on Instagram, because I'm super busy on Instagram these days. But I am here. I am an open book for the most part, so just let me know what you guys want to hear. And thanks 1000 for watching this far and hearing me ramble and all that good jazz. I really appreciate it, and I cannot wait to, I'm about to say see y'all again, but I don't see y'all unless y'all comment or something. But I can't wait to have some more content for you guys to watch. And I'll see you next time. Bye.